Hey folks, it's day 68, 12th of April 2017, 5:21 p.m. My time, and I want to talk about a few things today. They all kind of interrelate. I have been starting to follow some other YouTubers outside of the Nofap you know community, and a couple of them actually have gotten to talking about Nofap, and their channels are like 99% or whatever, like about other things in Nofap. And I'll probably go put the links to their YouTube channels in the comments, or not the comments, the description section, and I guess the low bar it's called. But the three things I really want to talk about were the importance of perspective in this journey, the usefulness of being able to like step back, even like within your head, which is where I spend like 90% of my time. I spend 90% of my time in my mind, in my head, which it can be helpful, but again, like there's an importance in being able to take a step back from all of that and really just observe the totality of your existence, and like in the moment, and even observing your thoughts, because that's where I'd say the majority of my anxiety and so quote unquote depression comes from. The third thing I want to talk about was the level of control we each have as individuals in in this nofap journey and life in general. um, and some of this is coming off of watching like these two videos in particular by, there's one by Coterie and then one by entrepreneurs in cars, and it's directly related to the whole PMO addiction, because I mean they're literally on that. One of the guys, Coterie, he did the nofap, I guess you could say the nofap challenge. And the other guy, I'm not sure if he like went and literally like did that, but he got some comment from someone and did a video in response to the comment or the message or so. But how should I put it? I've had these experiences the last like week or two, and I think I may have had, if I think back, I may have had a couple of before that, where I was sitting here or sitting someplace else, even just walking along, and thinking about this, that, or the other in life, whatever issue it was, relationship with the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, girlfriend again, thinking about this girl or that girl, thinking about my, um, money issues or education issues or whatever, and feeling that anxiety just taking off, building up, my blood pressure going up with it, and heck, even like feeling literal heartburn, and just like working myself up in my mind. Of course, as I'm walking along there or sitting there, like externally, I just kind of look blank faced or off somewhere else, and I just kind of like got to the point where I stopped myself, and I asked myself this question, and in my mind, obviously, like I had sort of like an internal dialogue. I asked myself like, why am I feeling so anxious? Why am I feeling so depressed? Why am I, what, really, why? You know, like, why am I feeling like this? This isn't, this isn't a good enough reason to be feeling like this, it's not like I live in, a crime-ridden area. I mean, at least in the sense of, I mean, actually, I mean, there are crimes that do take place here, but what I mean is, like, it's not like I have to worry about drive-by shootings and that kind of stuff, Um, in the sense that, like, some folks do. I'm not living in a war-torn area. I don't really have that ever-present, like, feeling of, or not feeling, but that ever-present reason for feeling like that life and death sort of, fear or anxiety. And I realized from those experiences, taking that step back, like observing my thoughts, really ask myself, where is all this coming from? that 90%, let's say, of my anxiety, and you could say depression if you want to use that word. I've started becoming more comfortable with using it, but 90% of that comes from me just like taking things and kind of over analyzing, overthinking, dwelling on it, and just getting to the point of worrying about things that I don't have any control over, and um, having to go through the process of like taking that step back and letting go of things, has helped a lot in recent times. Um, it's something that I think that a lot of us probably do need to do. I know I definitely need to do that more, taking that step back and just kind of accepting certain things and not overthinking, not spending so much time in my head, so to speak. Um, and it's changed my perspective, and that's one thing I've seen with this Nofap journey. It's been about perspective, like I don't need PMO. I thought I did, it feels like a long time ago. I mean, it's been 68 days since any porn or porn substitutes have been a part of my life. It's been 128 days, 128, 127 days, something like that, over 4 months since the literal act of fapping has been a part of my life. I mean, it's been that long, and for a long time I had the perspective thinking that that I would never get to that point where I could say I'd even gone a month without that, and that it would always be a part of my life, and that would just be my existence, that I would have that as my coping mechanism, and nothing would really change. So your perspective on things, which in some cases, many cases, in fact, you'd have to actively work on developing and changing, but your perspective can play like a major part in determining what results you get. And I think that's something that Dr. Maltz was referring to, talking about one of his main takeaway points in his work. But anyways, I think I've covered those first two. I don't want to drag it out too much. Just kind of going over and over the same things. So moving on to the third point, since I've talked about perspective, how it influences your Nofap journey in life, and how changing your perspective can oftentimes create different results. I've talked about taking a step back, observing your thoughts, and I will finally go add that link to that initiation into hermetics thought exercise or meditation exercise that I think could help. I think I was going to put in another video, and I'll go do that after this. So I've covered those first two. The third one I really want to talk about was the level of control we have, in this, because I know definitely when I started out, it felt like I didn't have any control. Like, it was just, it's like the porn was this manifested, like, creature that had me in chains, and was chains that was gonna hold me down, and there was no way of really getting beyond or living beyond it because of underlying issues I had. And obviously I still have underlying issues, but I resolved a lot of them, which is why I feel as free as I feel of that. But we have a lot more control over this than we think we do in many cases, and a lot of folks who are trying to break free from it, they feel like the porn is a problem, or the porn substance is a problem, and the porn makes me do this, the porn makes me do that. It's just like, it's the same thing with alcohol. And trust me, I have some alcoholics in my family. I don't necessarily like to talk about that, but having them, or having had them, some of them have passed on, may they rest in peace. But having had them, or having them in my family, and therefore a part of my life, it's definitely given me a different perspective on addiction, because I mean, you could say the same thing about alcohol. You say, oh, it's alcohol that makes me do it. It's the booze that make me do it. You know, it's like, you know, that bottle of, or that thing of, you know, beer or wine. That is what makes me drink. You know, it's forcing itself upon me, and you know, that's how the alcohol ended up in my, you know, in my body. It forced me to drink it. You know, but you're the one literally going there and taking the beer bottle, taking the cap off, and you know, chugging it away. You know, you're the one who went and bought it. You know, perhaps. You know, I mean, maybe sometimes, some cases it might be like you're at a party, or you're, you know, maybe somebody bought it for you for a gift, but ultimately somewhere along there you're making the decision to go and take a hold of that, and whatever reason it is, um, that you got into drinking or drinking that heavily. You know, it's the same thing with PMO. There are reasons why. Until you really confront those reasons and overcome them with some sort of new understanding. Excuse me. You know, they're gonna be there, and they're gonna be the things, not necessarily in and of themselves making you, but they're gonna be the reasons that you latch onto in order to justify going back to PMO again and again and again. And like for me, I would say that I would sum it all up under emotional pain, and that emotional pain had to do in relation to women in general. You know, dealing with rejections, dealing with dysfunctional relationships. You know, within my family, emotional abuse from my mother, emotional abuse from my sister, and my attempts to push that away or push that back. You know, as well as dealing with, you could say, abuse from other women outside of my family, which, you know, again, you know, I would say that it started within my family, but I would again say that probably the majority of it came from outside of my family, because, you know, I would carry those issues within myself and then try to resolve them or validate them, or validate myself through trying to get this girl or that girl to be my girlfriend, you know? And until I sat down and really, like, have that uncomfortable conversation with myself through making a video in this case. And, you know, on top of that, you know, watching some other folks' content that got me thinking about what are my real reasons for using PMO? What am I using it for? Why? You know, what's the purpose of it? You know, it's like any other tool or technology. And I mean, if you want to think about it in an amoral, unemotional sense, it is a tool or a technology for doing something. And if you get to the point where your tool, your technology, either A, isn't doing the job it was supposed to do, or it's B, causing, you know, all sorts of detrimental results, or B, or C, A, B, or C, what would I say? It's not as effective as something else. Well, then you need to change out the technology and replace it, you know, or you need to like modify it or that sort of thing. But with PMO, I don't feel there's really any modification. It really is something that you have to just replace with something else, and that replacement will only occur once again if you actually ask yourself those hard questions, and you accept the fact that you do have a lot more control over things, you know. Because for me, most recently, it was watching this video with entrepreneurs in cars. I don't know the guy's real name, but somebody had like written into him about, you know, porn and how it, you know, it's ruined his life, and you know, the porn, it's done all this to me, and you know, ultimately it wasn't the porn doing that to him. You know, he was doing that to himself, but he was doing that to himself through trying to do something that, you know, at least in part, perhaps he thought was gonna do something else, something different than that, you know, something positive, something helpful, something relaxing, relieving, whatever you want to call it. So, um, I think that pretty much does it for this video. Yeah. So, three things. Sum it all up, perspective makes a huge difference, and changing your perspective on this PMO problem in particular, but life in general, can cause a lot of changes to occur and really give you a lot more power over your circumstances. Number two, taking a step back and observing your thoughts, observing like the whole process you're going through, and really trying to understand like where your anxieties and other negative feelings are coming from. And understanding that at least for most of us living in the quote unquote first world or developed world, and dealing with PMO, especially if PMO is like our biggest problem in life, the likelihood is that we cause probably the majority of our anxieties and depressions ourselves by overanalyzing and dwelling on things as opposed to letting go, accepting and moving on. And the third thing is that we have a lot more control over this situation, this thing, than we might want to admit to ourselves. It's hard, it's uncomfortable. It's hard mentally, really, and it's uncomfortable mentally, because you have to sit there and you have to really you have to really see that this is you doing this to yourself, and you're doing this to yourself to cope with underlying issues, whatever those issues may be. It depends upon the individual, but you have to be willing and able and actually go through that whole process of having that uncomfortable conversation with yourself. Whether you record it as a video or not, however you go through it, you have to go through that. And then you can really start realizing the power you have over your life and over your situation and over your PMO addiction and the fact that you can eliminate it. So, anywho, I hope having this bottle of soda in my video does not cause issues with uploading it and so on. But anywho, thank you, and see you guys around. See you folks around. Thanks for the likes, the comments, the subscriptions. I hope my content helps someone out there, and if you like it, think of giving it a like, leaving a comment or subscribing to my channel. Appreciate it. Bye.